and the Fat Man, and we're talking life and music from the 60s through to the noughties. Well, welcome everybody to Mick and the Fat Man Talking Music. We're coming to you live from the World Fair restaurant in Bankstown Square in Sydney, Australia. And we're loving the dining experiences here in the food court. It's like taking a world culinary tour. There's Mama Lucia's, there's Neptune's Hall, there's the old Heidelberg, where the pork knuckle was legendary. I'm the Fat Man, and with me is Mick. And Mick, I can see you munching down on a knuckle like a man possessed as we talk right now.
You can't go past a good pork knuckle, mate.
Yeah, I know. You're really enjoying being back. I assume you're really enjoying being back at Bankstown Square, mate?
Well, went to school there.
In Bankstown Square?
Not at Bankstown Square, now you mention it. Although, did spend a bit of time there and in the snooker hall, just next to Bankstown Square.
And you remember Bankstown Square was a bit fancier than Roselands at the time because they had David Jones, and so it was a bit of a fancier shopping centre. Well, at Roselands, they only had Grace Brothers back in the day.
Yeah, and there are standards.
That's right. So, what have you been listening to, mate?
Mate, I've been listening to an album which has been out for about a year, and I've only just found it, called Under the Covers by Mazzy Star and Susanna Hoffs. It's the third in a series, so obviously this is number 3.
Oh,
and just to be creative, it's called Under the Covers 3.
Jeez, how did they come up with that?
I don't know. They must have focus group.
Workshop.
Absolutely.
Yep. Run at the flagpole, see who salutes it.
Yeah. Now, Mazzy Star is a US session guitarist and a recording artist in his own right. He had an album in the early 90s called Girlfriend, which is I was going to say one of my favourites, but they're all my favourites that we talk about on this show. But that was a wonderful album, and it broke him as an individual performing artist. And he had a series of albums, and Susanna Hoffs, of course, from the Bangles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and she's got that lovely waifish sort of voice that made the Bangles so appealing.
And she's just having a Manic Monday, is she?
She's way past Manic Monday.
Oh, right, okay, good on her.
And because they're covering 80s songs on this one, so number 1 was covering 60s songs, number 2 was covering 70s songs, and number 3 was covering 80s songs. Maybe we should just play that album and we can go home.
I'm just thinking, what could possibly 4 be? What would their 4th album be about?
They could do a whole album of Susanna Hoffs singing Never.
I reckon what they should have done is a logarithmic progression rather than a linear progression. That would have been far more interesting.
Yeah, except no one would have known what that was.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It sounds good, though, doesn't it?
It does.
When they're in interviews.
Yeah. So in the 80s, you recall that despite a lot of criticism of the 80s, there was some fabulous stuff in the 80s, What's interesting is that since America scarcely recognises that England exists, on this album by 2 Americans, they cover so much English stuff.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. They cover the Smiths, How Soon Is Now, the Killing Moon by Echo and the Bunnymen, and Train in Vain by The Clash, to name 3.
Well done.
Yeah, so it's really good. It's not too imposing. It's covers. So he's not trying to do anything world-shattering with them, but he's a great player, and he plays these songs very, very well, and he's very faithful to the originals. Love it.
I mean, it's interesting you mentioned that the Americans haven't realised there was something outside of America, because that still exists now. They haven't quite realised there are other countries in the world. And in fact, if you see some of those interview shows where they're out on the street talking to Americans, they actually don't even know where their own country is, let alone other countries. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, that's why God put America on Earth, so the rest of the world had something to compare themselves to.
Excellent. Well, I've been listening to a few things, but what I thought I needed to do was our last podcast. I actually talked about the top 10 albums in 1974, and one of them was Rick Wakeman's 6 Wives of Henry VIII, and I mentioned that it had a great cover, and that's not true. It's got a really boring cover. But the album that did have a great cover was The Myths and Legends of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. And what an absolute corker of a record it was. And the album came with a beautiful glossy booklet with the lyrics in it, and drawings of medieval drawings and all that sort of stuff. And I actually had that album, and I kind of enjoyed it at the time. didn't dislike it. But what I found interesting is that Wakeman actually wanted to do it live and in London, and he decided that it would be probably good to do it in something like Wembley Stadium, so, just a little venue. There was a small problem with him trying to do it in Wembley Stadium, is that the Ice Follies had booked it out and scheduled performances going forward and had turned Wembley Stadium into an ice rink. Wakeman's manager suggested, let's go and do something smaller at, say, Albert Hall or somewhere like that. But no, Wakeman insisted he wanted to do it at Wembley and subsequently told Melody Maker that he would be presenting King Arthur as an ice show. And so there was no going back, and sure enough, he performed the King Arthur on 3 sellout nights, got 27,000 people there, imported 19 international skaters who skated around the ring dressed as knights, dressed as horses, and presented this show to the adoring fans. Did his dough because he funded the whole thing himself because no one would pay for it, but imported a sound system from America because there was no sound system in the UK good enough. And, so look, I found a couple of clips on YouTube. So if you want to have a bit of a geek at this, I'll put the links into the show notes. There's a couple of clips, but the one in particular is the Black Knight fighting Sir Lancelot. And literally it is this rip-roaring tune going on with 2 skaters in horse suits skating around jousting. So highly recommend you have a look at that and enjoy it for what it is. So that, as I said, they'll be in the show notes, both of those things. And just quickly, one of the things I have been listening to is a blast in the past, which is Ayers Rock. Do you remember Ayers Rock? That
I do.
Prog rock jazz sort of group. I was listening to their, I think it was their first album, not altogether sure, to be honest with you. But yeah, they were a ripper band. But there was one song on there called Crazy Boys, and it starts with sort of this talk, and they're pretending they're Greek, and they talk about Dr. Hopanopoulos or something like that, who's the Greek gynecologist. So probably not really socially acceptable in this modern day and age, but if you're into a bit of prog rock and jazz sort of stuff, fantastic. The great band, and actually did quite well for themselves. They had quite a bit of a different lineup over the years, and one of the big Mark Duncan Maguire or Mark Kennedy, Duncan Maguire I think it was, ended up being Marsha Hines' boyfriend. I think it was, or was it Mark Kennedy? Can't remember now. One of them. Anyway, let's move on. So, Mick, what are you dragging out of the Globite school bag for us today?
Well, before I go into that, I really should point out that not every listener we have is of an age to have been around in 1970. But and so I had somebody ask me the other day, what the hell is a Globite school case?
In fact, my son said to me, I had to look it up. I'd never heard of it before.
Yeah, it's not like today where the kids take a backpack with their favourite group on it. Yeah.
Everybody's got a backpack. No, back in the day, the Globite school bag was a hard cover bag, which you could sit on, in fact. And I don't think anybody had a backpack. Did a backpack exist?
No such thing.
No such thing. We all had a school case, which we used to slide along the corridor in the school and try to knock out everybody else's school cases.
That's right. Hit people with them.
But Globite was the... And I think there was a couple of other brands, but really your top of the pops was Globite, without doubt. And I'm sure you've been digging around underneath the old cheese sandwich that you've got in there to find what we've got today, mate.
Well, I have indeed, mate. And right there, beside the cheese sandwich,
beside it,
I've found a copy of The Velvet Underground and Nico, which is the Velvet Underground's first album from 1967.
1967. That's almost before we were born, but it's quite a while ago, isn't it?
Cheers.
I did pull out the top singles of 1967 for Australia. there's a couple of corkers there, as you can imagine. In particular, the Royal Guardsman with Snoopy versus the Red Baron, which I'm sure you remember with fond memories. And oddly enough, the Royal Guardsmen were back again in Christmas with Snoopy's Christmas. So the Royal Guardsmen had a big year in 1967 in Australia. And then there was also Petulia Clark. I remember Petulia Clark, but I have no memory whatsoever of Don't Sleep in the Subway. Oh, yeah, Don't Sleep in the Subway. That's right, it is too. I'd forgotten all about it. No, the one actually, she had another one. This Is My Song. That's the other one she had in there. Couple of Beatles songs, but the Monkees made it in there with I'm a Believer, so that's all good news. But the top single for 1967 was Normie Rowe, a good old Aussie, made it in there with Ooh La La. You remember that?
I sing it in the shower.
Ooh La La. I think it's a French song. But anyway, let's move on. Let's give us a bit of a rundown of Velvet Underground and Nico, Mick.
All right. Okay. Look, this album is, for my money, and certainly the money of a lot of people whose opinions count, is probably one of the most influential rock and roll albums of all time, including such bands as the Stones and the Beatles, who all did great stuff and were influential in their own way. The Velvet Underground, this album was released and it was like nothing else that had ever been heard. Now, you heard the top 40s and the type of songs. You know, this ain't Don't Sleep in the Subway, darling. This is homeless people are in the subway, darling. Yeah. This is really raw and gritty. It's looking at New York at the time, and again, people, in fact, most people alive today would only know this by going back and looking for the information. But New York at the time was a basket case. It's very difficult to conceive of the concept of a city the size of, you know, one of the largest cities in the world going bankrupt.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
in '67.
No, well, it was on the way in '67. Their infrastructure was crumbling. Their services for citizens were crumbling. Police was questionable. There wasn't much that was good about New York. A lot of people actually saw that as a positive. They saw the energy that came from living in that sort of environment. But the city itself, the council, what their equivalent of the council, the mayoral administration, kept borrowing money. And because the city was in such dire straits, didn't pay it back. So by the time we got to 74, they were the night before defaulting on a $454 million bill.
Oh.
The cavalry came in at the last minute. But that's how dire the situation was. And that started in the 60s and went all the way through to the 70s. Oh. So the band, the Velvet Underground, is living in this city with extremely high crime rates, drug-fueled issues, even in the 60s.
Oh.
We think about it in the 70s and so on, but this was happening.
And was heroin the drug of choice back in those days, or
much of it? Yeah, I mean, obviously, marijuana's always there. And
designer drugs wouldn't have been a thing back in those days.
Not so much. No, it was straight.
Heroin, LSD,
whatever the Colombians can pick off the tree.
Yeah, they're into natural.
That's right. Yeah, herbal things,
herbal remedies.
Yeah, pretty much cocaine and heroin.
Yeah, right.
But the band themselves, they lived together in. There was.
So who was in the band?
Who was in the band? The band was Lou Reed.
Yep.
John Cale, who we'll come back to those in a moment. Sterling Morrison on rhythm, and Maureen or Mo Tucker on drums.
Right.
So you look at them. You look at photos of them at the time, and doesn't take much fashion sense to dress all in black. And certainly Cale and Reed looked like they'd cornered the market in sunglasses,
right,
at night.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm getting the picture.
So their songs, I know when we were talking about, and you said, "Why do you want to do this album? I hate it."
Look, I don't hate it. I just don't like it. So I suppose that's a subtle difference.
It is, yeah.
It's not my Saturday afternoon listening album. And I just sort of thought it's a bit funny when you can sing along and you actually sound better than the singers. There's not a lot of albums you can do that to.
Oh dear, oh dear,
And I can at least, anyway, please move on. But I do see where they are doing stuff. This is 1967, and really they did this album in 1966. No one's doing this sort of shit. This
Absolutely
is really out there.
Yep.
I don't like it that much, but it is out there, and I can see there's rhythms in there that have carried that are still around today, without doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. The content matter of many of the songs is it's very grimy and straight from the gutters of New York, and certainly the seamy side is a charitable way of describing it.
Yeah, yes,
yeah.
Yes.
We'll talk later on about Andy Warhol's involvement, who saw pure art in the type of thing that the Velvet Underground were doing, but their songs. Let's just talk about a couple of the songs, and then I want to talk about the people that they've influenced and why so many people say that this is probably one of the best and certainly most influential rock and roll albums ever made. You go through the songs quickly. The first song that opens up is a song called Sunday Morning, which is lovely, and it's got sort of a xylophone, is it? Some very high, very high pitched piano style instrumentation, and it's one of Reed's calmest, nicest, at least in appearance, songs. But it's about a barbiturate come down.
But I think the thing with that song is that with the record company made them do another song that had more commercial feel to it. So
absolutely,
they went round to quite a few record companies who said, no thanks. Finally got a record company, and one of the provisos was that you write another song that gives a little bit more commercial content to it. So this is, I assume, Lou Reed's version of a commercial song.
Indeed. Yep.
It's not top 40 by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a good song.
It's not. But what you've got to, what you can see here is that Lou Reed, I always, because I've been a fan of the Velvets for many decades, and I always used to think that John Cale was the talent of Velvet Underground, and I still think that John Cale is a fabulous talent. But when you listen to Reed, and we'll talk about Reed in a couple of episodes, when you look at Reed's work over his entire career, he is a songwriter right at the top of the American songbook. His ability to write beautiful songs, his ability to write very nasty songs and gritty songs is unquestioned. But his ability to take words, grab a situation, and write what is a beautiful love song is right there at the top.
I agree. Lyrically, it's very strong, but I don't necessarily like the way the lyrics end up into a song. But anyway.
No, that's true. But Reed was then able to take, only a couple of years later than this album, come out with a top 40 hit, Walk on the Wild Side.
Indeed.
Yeah. So he can do it. Yeah. Just this is the first album, and like a lot of bands, first album, let's come bolting out of the box and show everybody what we can do.
But I think if he, so Waiting for the Man,
yep,
that song could be a top 40 hit for him easily with the right production and that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
No two ways about it. It has a really strong beat to it. It has great lyrics, and it with better production, well, production almost, almost just with some production, it would be, if that album was on Transformer, that would be a hit.
I think you're right. Yeah. And it's been done by so many other people. It's been readily picked up, and most people haven't seen the need to change it substantially because, in a nutshell, it's 3.5 minutes of pure rock and roll as we've come to know it.
That's right. But it's a bit crusty, on the album. But it is a good, and it's the right length. It has the right sort of driving rhythm in there, and it's got a good melody. Yep,
it does. And the lyrics are a travelogue through the seamy side of New York, all about drugs and prostitution.
Love a good travelogue. Yeah. I love a travelogue through the seamy side of New York.
Yes, it's exactly what you need. Yeah, some of the other songs on the album, Venus in Furs. I know that's one of your particular favourites. It's about sadomasochism, and in fact, it's the name of the band, the Velvet Underground, actually came from a book called The Velvet Underground, which was about S&M and dominatrixes in New York.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So they thought, well, how appropriate. Going through some of the other tracks, I'm not going to do a discussion on each of the tracks because I think there's plenty of stuff around the album. People can go and listen to it, and it'll be on the playlist attached. Run, 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 about drugs.
Yep.
Heroin, obviously.
About heroin, about drugs. So we've got a Barbiturate Come Down. We've got S&M. We've got Waiting for You, essentially Waiting for Your Dealer, I think it is.
Waiting for the Man, yep.
Run, Run, Run is about drugs. Then Heroin is about drugs.
Yeah.
Okay. Just checking.
It's
just doing a count.
it's pretty consistent. Content wise. Yeah. But you wouldn't want to mess it up at all, would you?
No.
Contrast that with California, which had bands like the Mamas and the Papas.
Yeah.
Which was lovely. Two girls, two blokes singing nice, happy songs. What doesn't get talked about, of course, is that they were happily taking their own drugs. But nonetheless, the songs play something nice. and that's exactly what they did. And the Velvet Underground was exactly the other side of the coin to that.
Yeah, Mamas, the Papas, Jefferson Starship, they were doing a bit of acid, really, a lot of acid. Yeah. But they were singing more happy songs, and I think we've mentioned it before when we talk about something like Monterey Pop, where people like Jimi Hendrix and The Who played at Monterey Pop and sort of were not really part of the Californian scene. And everybody sort of went, what the hell is these loud people doing on our nice, happy, chirpy Sunday afternoon where, it's beautiful.
And in a dreadful generalisation, California's always been known for that, for the lighter side of things. And that's not fair and not true, but it's certainly a public perception.
And so after they released the album, did they tour with that album, Mick?
They did. They toured. They toured across the states on a tour put together under Warhol's inverted commas guidance. Andy was a great artist. Not much when it comes to organisation.
I couldn't see him organising the logistics of a concert tour across America somehow.
Not as such. No.
I assume he paid someone to do that or something like that.
Well, you would hope so.
Or it was just an unmitigated disaster, one or the other.
Bit of both.
Yeah.
Bit of both. Yeah. That wasn't really Andy's forte. And in fact, even at the time, whilst he was known and well known and he was famous, he wasn't the name that he is today.
Yeah, because I saw him being interviewed, and he was talking about getting involved with the Velvet Underground, and said, "Oh, I've given up painting." And I went, "Oh, really? I wonder if he had given up painting that particular time."
Much of what Warhol said in interviews was said for effect rather than for fact.
Yes, good point. Actually, just thinking of paintings, the producer did produce the album for the fee of a painting from Andy Warhol.
Yeah.
Which he sold a few years later after he had a divorce settlement, which I think he said he got about $17,000 for it and would be worth $2.5 million today.
Sad, isn't it?
That's
that's about the comparison. No, well known, and $17,000 even then was quite a lot of money. How could it go any higher?
Yeah, no, but it's interesting, isn't it? Like when you think about when you go to the Tate Modern, you see Andy Warhol stuff there, and you think, wow, okay, yeah, that's interesting. But they're essentially priceless paintings. They're up with the Van Goghs and also sort of those sorts of dollars, but $17,000 in the mid-70s.
And much of what Warhol did, and I like Warhol. I'm not putting him down at all, but much of what he did was tossed out very quickly. So $17,000, that's for a Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah. That's right.
Much.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, so they toured over to across the states. You were saying
across the states. Certainly didn't get anywhere else.
California, anywhere?
I don't believe they played in. I believe they did play California, but California didn't want to know.
Can't imagine it. A little bit too. I don't know. Hard ass.
Black. Look, what's interesting is, because we weren't there and we weren't even alive at the time, but the view between the East Coast and the West Coast, if you've ever watched the show Mad Men, which I thought did really well in capturing the ad agency and the grittiness, griminess of the 60s, and their view that was espoused then of California as almost another world. Right? So you'd go from New York, which is high-rise, streets, busy, lots of money, and you go to California where it's sunny.
Well, it's interesting because I listened to a couple of podcasts by a couple of female comedians. Two of them are in New York, two of them are in the California part of the world, and their comedy is so different to each other.
Oh, yeah.
The one in New York is like, you fucking man, the fuck, and all this sort of stuff. And the ones in California, it's sort of more cerebral.
Yes.
Which is interesting.
Yeah. So that's interesting that's still the same today.
It is.
And there's always been that East and West Coast comparison between music, between art, between lifestyles.
Speaking of that, if you go and look up Laurie Kilmartin, she's one of the comedians who I was just talking about there on the West Coast. She's quite an interesting comedian. She actually does a sketch where she pushes her son into the swimming pool and she makes him speak Spanish. And it's a direct rip-off of Monty Python and the where he does the graffiti on the wall, and he says, "What's that say then?" He says, "They go the house."
Yeah.
He says, "No, it says Romans go home." No, it doesn't. And she does the exact same sketch about her son having to say, "Help, get me out of the pool." And she says, "No, conjugate the verb."
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, anyway.
So any millennials that are listening, go and look up Monty Python and The Life of Brian.
Life of Brian.
For the Roman graffiti sketch. It is one of the funniest things you'll ever see.
That's right. Very good.
Anyway.
We digress.
We digress. And how unusual for us to digress. Talking about Reid being a songwriter and wonderful lyrics, in amongst all of the grit and the grime that he's writing here on this first album, he writes a song called I'll Be Your Mirror. And we'll talk about Heroin in a moment as a direct contrast to that. I'll Be Your Mirror. Reid, even in his early stages, in very first days of his career, he could write beautiful, tender lyrics. Just listen to one verse out of I'll Be Your Mirror. I find it hard to believe you don't know the beauty that you are. But if you don't, let me be your eyes, a hand in your darkness so you won't be afraid. And the whole bloody song goes on like that. It is just absolutely stunning. So, so if there's anybody just a touch younger, you could steal that, write that on a card to your girlfriend or to your wife, and you would be in the good books for 6 to 12 months. Count on it.
6 to 12 months or 3 weeks, depending.
Well, it's all better than now. So that song was originally sung by Nico, and I know you don't really care much for Nico, and she is an acquired taste. With that very, very lugubrious sort of German singing style that she has, very, almost Gregorian with some of the way she sings things. And just a little semitone flat, I find. Oh, well, at least she's consistently flat, though. So if it's consistently flat, can you say it's flat? Well, if she's under every note.
Well, maybe the music is a semitone too high. That might be the other problem.
That's where you musician folk can really look at things properly, can't you? Reid continued to perform that song all the way through for decades, and he did a live album in 1997 called One Perfect Night, which was a live concert in London, and he did it himself with almost no change.
Did he write all the songs?
Yes, yeah. Cale wrote a lot of the music with him.
Yeah.
But Reid was the songwriter for Velvet Underground.
I'll be honest with you. I think Carl can stick his viola well up his arse. On one song, a little bit of sort of droning viola is okay. But on a lot of songs, it just grates with me a little bit. And that's why I feel sometimes this is not your Saturday afternoon listening album. This is not sit back and relax. It's not jolly.
it was never going to be jolly.
It's not jolly. You stretch the imagination.
It's challenging, loud, grating, abrasive. Wonderful. I love it.
Yeah, I know you do. And look, and I think you have the benefit of liking it, like consistently liking it for a long time. I think there's a lot of Johnny come latelys who like it now because it's trendy to like something from that. And you know they were without doubt inventive, but yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to say anymore.
Harsh but fair.
Cruel
I
but
think.
fair.
Yeah, cruel but fair. Look, and you look at Heroin, the song, not the
song,
not the product.
That is a tough song.
It's a tough song, and Reed's done it again. Reed is and has been ever since this first album. He's been a prodigious live album release. He's released. I'd have to do a count, but a lot of live albums of stuff, and he's appeared on live concerts and things. And he's done Heroin a lot. Rock and Roll Animal, again through the later part of the 70s, featured a very long version, and we'll talk about this in a couple of weeks. Very long version of Heroin with Steve Hunter and Dick Wagner on guitar, and he captures beautifully. Starts off very simply with a bit of acoustic strummed guitar, and rapidly falls into discord. Lots of instruments playing against each other. Some changing time signatures all the way through. It speeds up and slows down. The album
I must admit, I like that. I actually do like that, the way it slows and then just builds to a crescendo and then drops back down again and then builds to a crescendo. But then it kind of falls apart at the end of this. At the end of the recorded version, doesn't it?
Very deliberate. Yeah.
It may be, but it does just it just seems to crash into just noise, a cacophony of noise.
Well, it fell into such a cacophony of noise that in the recording studio, Mo Tucker's microphone switched off and nobody noticed. Mo on the drums.
Yeah, no, I noticed. There's all of a sudden the drum just stops.
Yep.
Surely she had more than one mic, though.
No. But the sound input from the drums was gone. You listen to it again.
Yeah, no, it's there. There's nothing there. I know. There's nothing
there, yeah.
Not a thing.
And look, what Reed was trying to capture there was the confusion, because I don't know that Reed was. I wouldn't say he never took heroin. I think between them they all tried everything that they possibly could. But I don't know that he was known as a long-term heroin user. I suspect that from everything that I've read about Reed, he was more into speed and cocaine. Yep. There you go.
Fair enough.
Different sorts of drugs.
Fair enough. No, I wouldn't get into that bloody heroin nonsense.
Yeah, but because of the environment that he was in, he obviously exposed to it on a daily basis. So he captured the confusion of a heroin user in much the same way as when we talked about Nick Cave capturing the confusion of a man on death row in the mercy seat. Yes. So a songwriter of the caliber that we're talking about here is a storyteller. Right? He's not just there to write lovely love songs, although Reed could do that quite perfectly as well. But this confusion of the heroin user starts slow with pick guitar and a bit of strumming, picks up after one verse, and then Cale's viola gets going and gets crazy.
It does get going.
But the viola, Cale was quoted once as saying, "I think the viola is the saddest instrument because it's playing all minor keys on the viola."
Oh, okay.
Right? And you listen to a lot of soundtrack work. When you're not thinking about it, you think, oh, okay, something bad's going to happen here or something sad's going to happen here. Good odds that it's a viola that's playing.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll note that from now on.
Yeah, note that on when you're listening. Well, because music is
Mick
such
said that's a viola.
Yeah. But you think about it. Music is such a something that illustrates the mood and the feeling and the intensity. So and the viola is a very good instrument to do that. Guitar strums and can play guitar type sounds, happy days. But the viola, because of those minor keys, plays a lot sadder type of music.
So let's just talk briefly about each of the artists. So Reed, just give us a quick rundown, because we're going to talk about Reed later on at another episode going forward. But just give us a bit of an oversight of each one of the protagonists in this whole little story.
Yep. Now, Lou Reed was born in New Jersey And if you've ever heard him interviewed, you can hear that New Jersey accent. Yeah, very aggressive, very in your face.
It's interesting. You know, he used to be such an arsehole to interview in many cases, depending on any particular day.
Yep.
And you said like, he's a prodigious sort of live musician. You sort of thought he obviously feels an obligation to his fan base, but you know, doesn't sort of suffer fools lightly. I guess I'm not exactly sure what it is, but you know, I would sort of think that a grumpy old man probably wouldn't play live that often as well, you know, but he obviously did.
That's what he did.
It's interesting.
Saw him, and through his life up until 2013 when he died, he apparently was a bastard to interview.
Yeah.
He had no time for journalists. I think it was a defensive mechanism, because look, you've seen the interviews that people ask of rock stars coming into Sydney.
Oh yeah. What do you think of Australia, mate?
Yeah, well, that wall there's good.
Customs Hall was nice,
and he gets that sort of nonsense from. It got that sort of nonsense from journalists the world over, and so he became very defensive and very aggressive about that right from the word go. Yeah. He had a strange relationship with his parents. Said he didn't like them, but still kept in regular contact with them. I don't know whether that was just him trying to create a persona about himself right from the word go. New York, the poor tortured artist, and so on and so on. Songs such as later in Reed's career, "Kill Your Sons," purported to document his mental health issues and treatment. They sent him off for electric shock therapy at one point.
Bit of ECT, get you
clear
the brain.
Yeah, it's questionable whether that actually happened though.
Oh, okay.
But he was a naturally good songwriter. He did a stint you mentioned before when we were talking before this about Pickwick Records.
Yes,
and he was a house writer for Pickwick Records and used to write all the knockoff songs. So someone would have a hit and they'd knock off, they'd write 5 songs in that vein for somebody else to record and put it as fillers on 20 Golden Greats, that sort of thing.
It's interesting, I didn't even know this existed until I just read it. And, so they'd come into him and say, oh, write 5 surf songs, and he'd go off which must have been a great bonus for his career going forward because realistically he was under the pump, he had to write. And so he really would have honed his writing skills, and that's why it's interesting because I think lyrically, his songs are really strong on realistically the first album he ever does. He's strong lyrically, and I think that training obviously brought that about.
Absolutely, it's great training that sort of thing, being thrown in at the deep end and having to perform right away. He described it himself, his role as being a poor man's Carole King. John Cale was another member of the Velvets. Now Cale and Reed met in the New York art scene before they formed the Velvets, and whilst they came from very, very different backgrounds, they had a lot of the same ideas about music, and their original thought for the Velvet Underground was a band with nothing but drone sound. They thought, wouldn't that be cool?
Oh, that would be so good.
I know.
Would have loved to have heard that.
We would have been having a wonderful conversation today about that, wouldn't we?
Oh, would have been so good, a whole album of droning viola. Fantastic.
Cale was, and they say that if you're going to break the rules, you've got to know the rules, right, before you do. And Cale's classically trained. And he also did a lot of work with a chap by the name of Lamont Young, who was an avant-garde musician. And Young inspired people like Cale, Philip Glass.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. Steve Reich, who's in the same vein as Philip Glass. George Harrison.
George Harrison?
Yeah.
What song did George Harrison get inspired by Cale, you reckon?
Not Cale, Lamont Young.
Oh, Lamont Young.
Yeah.
Oh.
So listen to Within You, Without You.
Oh, yeah, okay. Done.
Yeah.
Tick.
Yep, okay. Brian Eno, obviously. And Jarvis Cocker, and I'm not as familiar with the work of Jarvis Cocker from Pulp, but again,
no idea.
He credits Lamont Young as being an influence on him, so happy days.
There you go.
But the things we're talking about here, drug-induced improvisation, and I don't think any of them had a real problem with that.
And I think what this is an absolute great recipe to be poor.
Oh, yeah. Record companies love that. They send scouts out to go and look for, I want a band that no one likes, plays far too loud, and their songs are lyrics that Mum back in Spokane is going to want to hate.
I'm sure some of them would have actually almost bemoaned being paid. That's sort of selling out. Don't pay me; it's selling out the business. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We've talked about Warhol, who was a very instrumental part of Reed's of the Velvet's early days. Not for what he contributed to the sound, but for the encouragement that he gave them. There's an album in the early 90s which Cale and Reed recorded called Songs for Driller.
Yeah.
Which documents in song the relationship between Cale, Reed, and Warhol during the Velvet Underground, and there's a line in there where Reed says Warhol is saying, "Write more songs, and the ones with the dirty words, make sure you record them that way." So Warhol thought that was a great idea.
So how did Warhol end up with the only name on the front cover of the album? Do you have any idea?
He produced he'd actually signed up the band. He designed the cover with the peelable banana.
Yeah, peelable banana.
Yeah.
I mean, that is inventive.
It is inventive, and some of these people, some of the covers that have come out over the years.
Carry on.
So some of the covers that oh, sorry, I'm popping into the microphone again. Yeah, that's because of my advanced microphone radio skills. And so some of the covers that you see, I mean, this was an example. So it was the Velvet Underground and Nico had a peelable banana, and it was often known.
What was under the peel?
Nothing.
A banana? Once you peeled it off, was there a banana under the...
There's nothing under it.
I thought there was a banana.
Was there? Oh, probably to my eyes, that's nothing.
Yeah. But, I mean, trying to get... I think that was... And I think I read that was one of the reasons the album was delayed. It was actually finished in 66 and didn't come out until 67.
Yeah.
And it was to get the technology right to have your banana peel.
Well, yeah.
That's it too.
A lot bigger bands have tried the fancy unusual cover. Led Zeppelin did a couple.
Yeah. Led Zeppelin 3 was the turny circle thing that you could choose the little holes in the front of the album, and as you turn the thing around, different things would appear. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. I loved that. Yeah. I had it.
It was good, but
I mean, it didn't grab your attention for too long, but it was nonetheless interesting.
But think of the cost of producing it and shipping it and not having it break.
Just quite amazing. Actually, it's interesting just talking about covers. Pardon me. You know that we've just had that big container ship stuck in the Suez Canal the other day. Yeah. 1967 was the year of the 7-Day War. The Suez Canal got closed. And Australia had decided to get all of Sgt. Pepper's albums printed in England because they didn't believe Australia could print the album. So the blockage of the Suez Canal delayed the release of Sgt. Pepper in Australia because they couldn't get the album covers.
Well, that'll teach them, won't it?
That'll teach them. That crazy Suez Canal just doing weird stuff.
Yeah, look, there's so much in this album, and we could go on as we have. We could go on for hours talking about various aspects of it, but I don't think we've got time to do that. But
look,
what I would like to talk about,
just finish off, and we'll knock it over. Yeah,
we'll just talk about where we say it's one of the best and or the most influential albums. You can look at that in who it's influenced, and there's very few rock artists who wouldn't say they have at least some nodding influence from the work, from the style, from the lyrics, the lyrical content and approach of the Velvet Underground album. Eno once said that the first album, that album only sold 10,000 copies, but everyone who bought it went and formed a rock band. Yeah. So that was that indicative.
Highly unsuccessful rock band, I dare say.
Well, that was the style. Yes, yeah, that was what. And all the records. I really can't understand this, but the records for the original label were lost. And I don't mean the records, the vinyl platters. I mean the accounting and the receipts and the numbers.
Right?
So they don't know how many were actually sold.
Well, I read something about that because, in fact, I read that Eno said 30,000, and then I heard the same quote. I don't even know where I read it, but that quote turned into 60,000. So the numbers of the original sales kept on going up depending on who was writing about it. But yeah. So you said 10. Eno said 10,000. You said Eno said 10,000. It was written down somewhere where Eno said 30,000, and there's also something where Eno said 60,000. So who knows?
That's right. And I think the current estimates, because they keep re-releasing it, special editions, remixes, all of that sort of stuff, several million have been sold in the meantime. Sure. And I've got a couple of different editions of the album, and not much difference other than improved sound quality. But influence, other bands that it influenced.
Yeah, give us an example.
REM.
Oh, there you go.
You listen to REM and you think, okay, a country sort of sound, but
I never thought of REM as country.
No, they're not country, but that sort of acoustic guitar, that Rickenbacker sound that Peter Buck used to play. Mm-hmm. But when you listen to their first couple of albums, it's very drony, and even Michael Stipe's singing was mixed way down into the mix because he just wanted it treated as another instrument, which is very much straight off the Velvet Underground's approach.
So if I want to be controversial, I could also say Tomorrow Never Knows by the Beatles is very drony as well. Same year.
Could indeed, absolutely. Maybe it was the year of the drone.
Maybe. Now you're flying them around everywhere.
Exactly. Have you heard of a band called Mazzy Star, who did a song called Fade Into You quite a few years back?
Yeah, I do.
And the lead singer is a woman by the name of Hope Sandoval, and she's got a lovely voice, a lovely elfin sort of voice, and yet when you listen to the backing, everything's been recorded at 11, everything turned right up and recorded, distorted, and then turned back down to a normal volume for playback.
Okay.
So again, it's that drone effect. And Bowie, of course. Much of Bowie's early stuff. And in fact, even on his Hunky Dory album, he acknowledges some VU White Light returned with thanks. And Bowie is
Heroes, of course.
Of course, yes, that mix there is just awesome. But Bowie doesn't play many concerts anymore, of course. But
he's dead.
Is he really?
He's not playing too many that I know of.
He has a certain indefinable presence, though.
It's like get a hologram of him, get him up there, and they did that with Michael Jackson, didn't they? Didn't they get a hologram of Michael Jackson to do do one of his concerts
right from the start?
Anyway,
but Bowie used to used to play "Waiting for the Man" and White Heat fairly regularly. Okay. Both Velvet songs.
Yeah.
So,
look, Reed recorded those as himself as well, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah. Anyway,
and used to play them. They were staples in his live show for many, many years. We'll talk about Lou.
Okay.
In the edition after next. Yep. Lots of people have done covers of Velvet stuff. Bowie, Japan. Japan did a wonderful version of All Tomorrow's Parties.
Okay.
With the
in fact, I might we'll knock up a playlist of Velvet Underground covers on Spotify for you folks. So keep an eye out for that. We'll put them in the show notes.
Absolutely, yep. And you'll find on that list you're going to find stuff by REM, Nick Cave, Nirvana, and Matthew Sweet.
Oh, there you go. All right.
So that's
all good news. Okay, folks. I think we might we'll wind it up. I think now, Mick. So that's it. Thanks for listening, folks, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook. You'll see the link on the show notes. Also, we've got a page up there on Instagram where we're putting up the odd little snippet of information every now and again. I put up a nice little photo from Jimmy and the Boys poster just the other day, which I found in the record shop down the street. Also, hit us up on the email if you want to get in contact with us. As I said, the addresses are all in the show note. Rate us up on Apple there as well, and be sure to be nice. And we'll see you soon. Thanks very much.